How do we build livelihood systems that help people move beyond recovery towards prosperity?
What do we need to do differently to deliver development solutions to the most left behind?
Are you hopeful that progress can be accelerated as we near 2030?
What does conflict look like in a decade from now?
How can we create an enabling environment for the key building blocks for risk-informed development?
What progress have we made towards getting out of the silos already? What can we see that's working? What can we see that's encouraging?
How can we do more with what we have? How can we be more creative in thinking through applications? How do we get these technologies in the hands of communities and of decision makers so that this actually hits the road and impacts the way that we're working, impacts the results?
Building resilience in today's world needs to consider three things. First, the interconnectedness of systems. Second, the multidimensionality of risks beyond disaster and climate risks. And third, the underlying drivers of risks linked to poverty, inequalities, and weak governance.
Addressing the existing wars and conflicts and preventing the same is a common public good for us. We need to quadruple our efforts and deploy all arms of diplomacy to foster peace and stability everywhere in the world.
We can see today that the stellar performance of female leaders have been receiving global attention. This can be a change, a deep change in perceptions about women's leadership. And this will include, of course, crisis countries. I truly believe that this can be a momentum where we can push hard to replace this old and obsolete masculine leadership archetype.
After a year of intermittent lockdowns across the world, one thing is very clear. Human mobility is not principally a problem to be solved. It is a value to be treasured and to be realized.
The systems that made us successful in the past will not be the same systems that will make us thrive in the 21st century. Therefore, being agile, adaptive, and future-facing are critical not only for fragile environments, but because we need to better recover from the pandemic and prepare for much bigger crises to come.
Today's discussion extends beyond the COVID response. It is really about a broader shift in the way of thinking and acting, so that urgent does not mean humanitarian response, and fragility does not only mean crisis response.
Transitional justice is not just about dwelling on the past. It is fundamentally forward-looking. We look back at past events to address the conditions that destabilized and made our societies vulnerable to human rights violations, abuses, and crimes, so as to enable the building of more inclusive and peaceful societies.
I refuse to believe that the needle can't be pushed forward. I contend that progress in mine action can be attained, measured, and sustained if and only if the political will is there.
COVID-19 has amplified inequalities. It's one of the biggest challenges of our time. And at the same time, this crisis is a real opportunity for building a better future and to ensure together as one world community a better, greener, and more equitable world.
Our experience is that basic preventive efforts can have important effects against radicalization in general, regardless of ideology.
We are convinced that UNDP's work must help trigger a seismic shift in the power imbalances that drives gender inequality. We need to move from inclusion to transformation.
It's very clear that progress towards 2030 can be subject to multiple types of shocks and risks. And so this is a really opportune time to have this discussion.
We do need to improve how we are using the 2030 agenda entry points, because many times we see that the incentives really to act early and collaboratively are not always there.
when we look into the future within the next decade, when we look at the threat vectors from a number of the dynamics that are currently going and looking at where they're heading, I think governance becomes a really prominent component that we cannot avoid.
All projections indicate that cities will define the development trajectory over the coming decades and beyond.
To achieve progress on the SDGs, disability inclusion cannot be approached as a standalone issue, but rather needs to be promoted across all policies and programs.
Traditional and classical approaches alone can neither tackle drivers of fragility and bring stability and peace, nor achieve the central promise of the 2030 agenda, leaving no one behind. There is a need to have innovative, transformative mechanism, policy, and strategy to tackle these critical challenges.